Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Administrator Pruitt, for being here today and taking the time to answer our questions. I really do appreciate that. As you know, Americans do expect good governance from all of us, and they expect accessibility, participation, responsiveness, and accountability. And since taking the reins at the EPA, you have shown that you are not afraid to engage with the American population. And you just gave that example of going out visiting those sites for Superfunds. You have also shown that you are willing to hear firsthand the concerns of Americans while giving those that are affected an opportunity to engage in the decision-making process. So thank you for that. In addition to the Superfund issue that you just addressed, in August of last year, you traveled to Des Moines, Iowa, and you met with over 50 stakeholders from across the ag industry at the Farm Bureau. And we left that roundtable really encouraged by what we heard and what we were able to engage in, knowing that we do now have a partner in EPA. Under your leadership, EPA has taken necessary actions to walk back and repeal destructive Obama-era rules, as discussed earlier today, like WOTUS and like the Clean Power Plan. Those are all things that have harmed our farmers and ranchers and our constituents at large in Iowa. Most importantly, you followed the rule of law and fulfilled the administration's promise, protecting high-quality American jobs by providing key commitments to maintain the letter and the spirit of the renewable fuel standard. And today, I want to thank you again on behalf of Iowa's farmers and rural communities. All of these actions have created certainty, they've kick-started economic growth and generated countless jobs across the country. Your back-to-basics approach has helped Iowa's unemployment rate dip below 3% for the first time since the year 2000. So thank you for that. During a more recent trip to Iowa on December 1st, you noted that EPA was actively exploring whether it possessed the legal authority to issue a nationwide RVP or Reed vapor pressure waiver. And 3 months ago, you sent a letter to a group of senators, myself included, stating you would look at ways EPA could fix the restriction preventing E15 from being sold during our summer months. Can you give me an update on where this stands, and do you today have clarification on whether or not the agency can extend the RVP waiver to ensure that our consumers have year-round access?
So, Senator, thank you for your comments. And with respect to the RVP issue, as you know, it's not really a policy issue. It truly is a determination about the legal authority on whether it can be granted nationally or not. It's my understanding that Senator Fisher actually has some proposed legislation on that particular issue, and we've talked about that. But the process internally to determine the legal authority continues. I'm hopeful that we'll have a conclusion on that soon. I mentioned that I made a second trip to Iowa in the fall of last year, fourth quarter of last year, and shared that with stakeholders there. It's very important, and we are working to get an answer as soon as we can.
Do you have a projected time frame?
I don't, but we can get that to you. I'll get a follow-up from this meeting and provide that to you.
Okay, because that will be very important to us as we move through a lot of discussions between the consumers, between those that are producing E15, and of course those in the administration. So we look forward to having that answer very soon. Last August, while you were in Des Moines, you also touched on the potential benefit of moving federal agencies or various departments out of Washington, D.C., and into the countryside and across the country where an agency's decisions are actually felt. This could be a relatively simple way to shift economic activity to hard-pressed communities and prevent harmful rules and regulations from even being considered. With a more decentralized EPA, do you feel misguided policies such as WOTUS could have been prevented, and do you support relocating government functions outside of the Washington, D.C. metro area?
Well, Senator and Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Carper and others, this is a very important question with respect to how we do business and how we deliver services as an agency. About half of our employees are located in those 10 regions across the country, and half are here in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that we ought to engage in as far as a collaborative discussion is whether it makes sense to locate operational units in each of the state capitals across this country to ensure that there's a focus on issues that are specific to that state, whether it's Superfund, air issues, water issues, the rest. So I really believe that this is a discussion. We've just begun this discussion internally, but I would welcome the input of members of this committee as well as Congress on what makes sense there as it relates to better delivering services across the states and the country.
And I appreciate that so much, Administrator. And I do believe having that easier access, the access closest to the people, is the best way that our federal government can work. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Sir.